Hi class. This week I will be delivering my discussion post in a video format. I'm currently recovering from a concussion, and so staring at a screen to write a whole bunch has been just really draining and difficult for me. I hope to be back to my very verbose self in our discussion post rather soon. But without further ado, I'll get into my own response to this week's prompts. So first, the teaching practices that stood out to me in this video, there are 4 actually. One was the use of anticipation guides. I found this to be really helpful in broaching difficult subjects with students, and I think it was a very good practice for Yvonne Hutchinson to include, because it allows students to voice their personal opinion about these hot topics without necessarily feeling like that their position will be attacked. It gives them a way to see that they can take either side of an issue, or even a third or fourth side, and that's okay. I also appreciated that she deliberately paired students who were different together, and the students appreciated that too. A lot of our readings this week have talked about the importance of including a multiplicity of viewpoints and exposing students to multiple perspectives. Furthermore, she also gave students the floor with no interruptions. There was one student in particular that was really passionate about speaking, and the other students were, listening, completely rapt. And that reminded me of that teaching tolerance guide in our readings this week, and it referenced something called, let's see, what was it? It referenced serial testimony, which I think this is kind of along the same lines. It's a good way to, let students really kind of take the lead in discussion. After all, the role of the teacher is to mostly facilitate students working through these very complex issues. And last, one of the things that I really enjoyed was seeing that there was a class scribe. I think it's actually really important to have students reflect metacognitively on like how they're learning and how learning happens in the classroom. I think it deepens their understanding of what's going on. So having a class scribe really puts a student more in the observer role to see how learning is happening for other students, and then that gives them more insights. After all, the class scribe for this day, saw the merit in other people's contributions, and he saw some of the learning that was happening for other students, some of the growth that they had made. And this actually reminds me a lot of a resource that we saw in EDTP635. It was an Edutopia video on collaborative learning at the college preparatory school, where they had like roundtable discussions with multiple roles like class scribe, discussion mapper, etc. And I found that to be really useful for when I go back into a multi-student classroom again. There were a few questions that I had about the video. One is, it seemed that Ms. Hutchinson asked her students to stay like after school, and I guess my question is, is it an undue burden to ask students to stay after school? I mean, part of this might be knowing our students, and knowing, whether they have after school obligations that could, that might even be, more important than school. Like, for example, if they have a job, or if they have to, pick their siblings up from elementary school or something. I know, that was kind of my experience growing up. So staying after school wasn't always an option, even though I think that students who stay after, can get, an enriching experience from that. And 2, I also noticed that there was a shy student who was asked to show the sign language for that the reading referenced. But she seemed a little hesitant, a little reluctant. And I guess then my question would be, when is it okay to ask a shy student to show their talent or to deliver their unique perspective? In our IRIS module from this week, it warned of, asking students to be like the voice for a particular group, as if they're a representative. And so, and yet, seeing the sign language was really enriching to a lot of the students in the class. And it could have also boosted that student's confidence, knowing that she could, be a big help in the discussion. So I guess I'm just wondering, how much pressure is okay? How does a teacher weigh those kinds of things? And as far as my own comfort level in facilitating race-based dialogue and other hot button issues, honestly, I've had a lot of experience with this already. I taught a lot of history classes. I've taught a lot of English classes too, in a variety of contexts, and it's just come up a lot. I've had the benefit of being able to work one-on-one with a lot of my students, because that's the model of the school that I've been working at for the past 2 years. And so I've gotten very comfortable with broaching the subject one-on-one. But I think that it would actually even be easier to broach it in a full class, because one, there's, the benefits of those techniques in the teaching tolerance guide, having a talking piece, for example, having the set of ground rules that's displayed, and kind of letting students work it out, taking a facilitator role rather than having to take it upon myself to represent all the different viewpoints. But interestingly enough, I actually find that I am more comfortable bringing up issues of race with my non-white students than I am with my white students, just because I've had the situation of being one-on-one with a student and tackling this problem of white fragility, that, is a thing, we encounter in, race-based dialogue. That can be a little uncomfortable when I'm the only other perspective they're really getting in the room. Which is part of why I think it'll be a lot easier when I have a multiplicity of viewpoints to draw upon in the class, and I don't have to, occupy that role of, always playing devil's advocate with a student. So in all, I actually feel pretty prepared in light of, the challenges posed by my current teaching environment. And yeah, that's basically my thoughts for the week. Thank you so much for listening. And I can't wait to see what you guys think.